Welcome to the Landscaping Growth Script, the authority on building your landscaping business with better leads, higher value clients, and a year-round sales pipeline. Here's your host, landscape industry marketing expert, Katy Doss.
Welcome back to the Landscaping Growth Script, where we help landscaping business owners attract better clients and build predictable year-round growth. I'm your host, Katy Doss of Script Marketing, and every week I bring you the strategies, insights, and real-world marketing systems you need to scale your business with intention. Today, I want to talk about something that's easy to miss because it doesn't always feel like a marketing problem. It feels like a mindset problem. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most landscaping business owners think they have minutes to make an impression, but you don't. You have seconds. Somewhere between 3 and 6 seconds, to be exact. That's how long someone actually spends looking at your truck, or scrolling past your Instagram post, or glancing at your Google business profile. We call these micro moments, and most landscaping companies are completely unprepared for them because they're pouring their energy into the wrong end of the funnel. So let's talk about why that happens and what to actually do about it. And because this episode is all about acting fast, we have got something you can put to use immediately. It's a free, quick hit resource called the 6-Second Attention Checklist. It walks you through the exact touch points I'm going to cover today. Your truck, your signage, your Google profile, your website, all that stuff, so that you can audit your own marketing as soon as you're done listening. Grab that at scriptmarketingcode.com/resources. So here's the mental shift I want you to make today. Most owners think about marketing like a story. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. You introduce your company, you explain what you do, you build trust over time, and eventually someone hires you. And that is not wrong. That process is real and it does happen. And I talk about it a lot. But it happens after somebody's already decided that you may be worth their time. And that decision, the one that determines whether they ever hear the rest of your story, gets made in a window that most of you aren't managing at all. A homeowner doesn't sit down and read your website like a novel. They glance at that hero image, that top image, before they ever have to scroll, and they decide in about 2 seconds whether your company looks like it's for them. They don't watch that full reel that you spent an hour making. They watch the first second or two, and then they decide whether to keep watching or to scroll. They don't read your whole Google business profile. They skim the star rating and the first line of the top review, and that's your pitch. And none of that is a criticism of your business. It's just how humans process information now. There's more content, more options, and more noise competing for the same 24 hours in a day than there's ever been. So the real question isn't, what's my message? It's, what does someone see, feel, or decide in the first 3 to 6 seconds of encountering my business? Because if that glance doesn't work and grab their attention, it doesn't matter how good the rest of the story is, they're never going to see it. So I want to be really clear about something because I don't want this episode to get all twisted into blog posts don't matter or stop making long videos. That's not what I'm saying at all. Long-form content works. Blog posts work. In-depth videos work. Detailed case studies work. Full podcast episodes like this one work. But they work at a different stage of the sales funnel. That kind of content is for somebody who's already decided that you might be worth 10 or 15 minutes of their time. Someone who's already in research mode, comparing companies, trying to get a feel for how you think and whether you frankly know what you're talking about. That's valuable. Absolutely keep doing it. But before someone ever gets to that stage, you've got to survive their glance. The 6-second moment where they decide whether you're even in the running. Most landscaping companies invest heavily in the 15-minute version of their marketing and completely neglect the 6-second version or the 3-second version. They've got a beautiful website with paragraphs of thoughtful copy, but a hero image at the top that doesn't communicate anything. They've got a genuinely great blog post buried behind a thumbnail image that nobody stops to look at. The long form stuff isn't the problem. It's that most companies are only building for the stage where somebody's already paying attention and skipping the stage where you earn that attention in the first place. You have to have both. But right now, most of you are missing the short one. Once you accept that most of your marketing is being consumed in just a couple of seconds, not minutes, the next step is really simple and it can change everything. Every single touch point you have, meaning every time someone has the opportunity to be exposed to your business in any way, seeing your truck, seeing your website, seeing your social content, reviews, proposals, whatever, everything has to have a glance version, a stripped down, instant read version of what it communicates before anyone slows down to actually engage. And most of you have never really audited that version. You've only ever looked at the full version, the one you see when you're sitting there staring at it already invested. And look, I love all of you, but you are the worst person to judge your own 6-second version of your business. You already know what your company does. You already know the story. You can't unknow it. So you can't actually experience your own marketing the way a stranger does in a passing glance. And that's why what I'm talking about needs to become an intentional exercise, not something you just assume is fine. So let's walk through where your 6-second version is actually being tested and how to make sure it's working for you instead of against you. So let's talk about auditing your 6-second touch points. First is your truck wrap and your yard signs. We know that these are billboards that can get up to 30,000 impressions a day, depending on where you are. But somebody driving past your truck at 35 miles an hour does not read a paragraph. They catch a color, a shape, maybe 3 or 4 words if you're lucky. If your truck wrap requires somebody to slow down and squint to figure out what you do, or to define what's actually in that photo, it's failing the 6-second test. I see this all the time. There is a billboard around town. I think it's for a plumbing company. And I think the image on the billboard is like a flooded living room. And the only reason that I say I think is because I have no idea if that's actually what it is. I've seen this billboard 100 times. And it is a weird image. And so now it's like my personal mission to figure out what that image is. If somebody can't tell what it is, it's too complicated for your truck or your yard sign. Your name should be readable instantly. What you do should be obvious at a glance. Not necessarily clever or cute, just clear. Landscape design, lawn care, outdoor living, whatever it is, it needs to land before they've passed you. That doesn't mean it has to be simple, but it does have to be clear. Same with your yard signs. A sign in somebody's front lawn is one of the most valuable pieces of marketing you have, and it's often the most neglected. If a neighbor can't read your company name and service from the sidewalk in a glance, it's a wasted opportunity. Next is your Google business profile. When somebody searches for a landscaping company, they're not reading, they are scanning. They see your star rating first. They see your primary photo next. And then if you're lucky, they read the first line of your most recent review before they move on to the next result. That means that primary photo in your Google business profile needs to actually represent your best work, not a random job site photo, not something 4 years old. And it means you need to be paying attention to what your most recent reviews actually say in that first sentence, because that's often the only sentence anybody reads. Next is your website's hero section. So this is the top section of your homepage, the first thing anybody sees before they scroll. We call that above the fold, which is an old newspaper term that meant anything on the newspaper above where the newspaper physically folded. So above the fold, or your hero section. In 2 seconds, someone needs to understand who you serve and what makes you different. Not your full story, not your process, and not something just generic like high quality landscape design. That's not it, gang. You need enough for somebody to think, okay, this might be for me. If that hero section is a generic photo of a mowed lawn and words like quality landscaping services, it's not doing anything. It's not wrong. It's just kind of invisible. It doesn't give anybody a reason to stop scrolling, and it's not memorable in those first couple seconds. Next is your social video hook. This is one of the biggest, most fixable mistakes I see. If you are making videos for social media where you are talking to the camera, maybe you're walking through a job site or you're giving tips or whatever it is, please do not waste your first 3 seconds introducing yourself. Hey guys, it's John from ABC Landscaping, and today I want to talk to you about, boom. By the time you've gotten through that sentence, your window's gone. At this point, when they are scrolling Instagram, nobody needs to know your name and your company. That information can be put on screen on type. You need to get into the most important thing that you have to tell them. That's what I try to do on our script videos. If you follow us on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever, when I'm promoting these podcast episodes, it's the hook. I don't ever start with, hey guys, it's Katy Doss from Script Marketing, and today I want to, no, that's not it. In fact, the hook for the video that I'm going to do for this podcast is probably going to be something like 6 seconds to get new clients, something like that. So I don't want you to waste those very important seconds at the beginning of a video that you've worked so hard on. Get to the point and make it something truly interesting. And finally, your proposal and your follow-up text. This one is easy to overlook because this one feels like it should be different. If you're doing a proposal, the client already knows you, right? They're already invested. Not necessarily. The cover of that proposal and the first line of a follow-up text or email or anything like that still gets a glance level read before somebody actually decides to dig in. If your proposal cover page is a wall of text or generic boilerplate, you're asking somebody to work to find the value. If your follow-up text opens strong and clear, you're making it easy for them to stay engaged. Every one of these little moments is a test, and most companies are failing several of them without ever realizing it because they've never actually looked at their own marketing the way a stranger would, in a glance, half distracted, deciding in seconds whether or not to keep going. So let's bring this together. Most landscaping owners think they have minutes to make an impression. In reality, most of your marketing is being judged in 3 to 6 seconds. That doesn't mean long-form content is a waste of time. Blog posts, in-depth videos, podcast episodes, all that, they all still matter and they all still work. They're just doing a different job in a different stage of the funnel. The 6-second moment is what gets somebody into that stage of the funnel. Every touch point you have needs to have a glance version. Your truck, your yard signs, your Google business profile, your website hero section, your video hooks, your proposals, all of those. And most owners have never actually taken a step back and audited what somebody who's only going to give them 3 seconds is going to get from this marketing that they're putting out there. So this week, go look at your own marketing like somebody who's seeing it for the very first time, for 6 seconds, half distracted. What do they actually see, and what could they actually decide? Because that decision is happening whether you're paying attention to it or not. The only question is whether you are the one shaping it. And gang, don't forget, we've got that 6-second attention checklist free at scriptmarketingcode.com/resources if you want a guided way to run this audit on your own business. That's a wrap for today. I'm your host, Katy Doss of Script Marketing, where we help landscaping businesses attract better clients and build predictable year-round growth. If you've got questions or ideas for a future episode, we always want to hear those. Email us at info@scriptmarketingcode.com. We'll see you next week for more strategies from the Landscaping Growth Script.
You've been listening to the Landscaping Growth Script with Katy Doss. To learn more about building predictable, year-round growth for your landscaping business, visit scriptmarketingco.com.